Hey everyone, welcome to Malleus Gaming. I'm your host Malleus, and today I'm here to discuss the gothic and macabre forces of the undead. I hope you enjoy bats, necromancy, and things that go bump in the night, because today I'll be going over my picks for the top 5 Vampire Counts units. This list will be a little different, as I'll be covering what I think are the best units for 5 different unit types. Infantry, Ranged, Cavalry, War Machines, and Monsters. Lords and Heroes will have their own videos down the line. Before we start, if you enjoy this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, as it will really help out the channel. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with future videos. Now, let's begin. Rising from their ancient cairns to serve in my top pick for infantry are the deadly Graveguard with great weapons. These stalwart wights make a solid core to your battle line. They have 7,380 health, a solid armor value of 90, magical attacks, and a very respectable weapon strength of 42, 29 of which is armor piercing. Their melee attack and defense are definitely below average, and their shielded counterparts have a better melee defense as well as some protection from shooting, but the great weapons these Graveguard wield give them a significant boost in offensive power. When fighting other line infantry, their bonus versus infantry value of 13 will boost their melee attack to 39, as well as increase their strength to 55. This will let them trade up fairly well with other heavily armored infantry units. Ordinarily, I'd value melee defense much higher, but Vampire Counts are not a defensive faction. They're an offensive rush faction. I find the key with them is to overwhelm your opponents as quickly as possible, and the stronger offensive profile of the great weapon-armed Graveguard helps to ensure that every aspect of your force is working towards that goal. Shielded Graveguard make for a strong anvil in the mid-game, but once you start fighting heavily armored Chaos Warriors, Empire Great Swords, or any dwarfs, you'll want to switch to these skeletal can openers to really put the hurt on them. Range units. What range units, I hear you ask? It's true, the Vampire Counts aren't exactly known for having any range units, but thanks to the Bloodlines mechanic, Sylvanian Handgunners are my pick for the best Vampire Counts range unit. Of course, it was either them or the Sylvanian crossbowmen. As a range unit, particularly a human range unit, their stats aren't anything impressive. Although they do have a decent range of 145, and they have an armor-piercing missile damage of 17. However, keep in mind that since these aren't undead, they can break from combat, and you won't be able to magically heal them with Invocation of Nehek. Utilizing your blood kisses in the von Karstein bloodline will allow you to recruit limited numbers of handgunners for your armies. Like I said earlier though, Vampire Counts are an offensive rush faction, and so you may have trouble effectively utilizing your handgunners in battle. Where I believe they really shine though, is as an emergency defensive unit when you have enemy armies encroaching on your settlements. Recruiting a lord, and some handgunners, plus whatever undead you can get through the raised dead mechanic, will allow you to more easily repel any invaders. The handgunners can work well standing atop the gates, or if you can get them set up on any elevated positions. They can do some significant damage, while your unbreakable undead units hold the enemy in place. Now here's something we can sink our fangs in. My pick for the best Vampire Counts cavalry unit goes to arguably one of the strongest cavalry units in the game, Blood Knights. These vampiric equestrians have a monstrously potent offensive stat line, coupled with a very effective defensive profile. Blood Knights have 5,400 health, a huge armor value of 110, and a decent melee defense of 42. They also have extra protection against missile attacks with their bronze shields blocking 30% of all small arms fire from the front, and the Flag of Blood Keep special ability giving them 20% missile resistance when out of combat. Not only that, but as vampires they have the Hunger ability, which lets them regenerate health when in melee. Their melee attack may seem low at only 32, but they possess Frenzy, which will increase it by 10 up to 42, as well as increasing their damage and charge bonus by 10%. They have a weapon strength of 45, 15 of which is armor piercing, and a bonus versus large of 22. This will increase their base melee attack to 54, and their weapon strength to 67 when fighting any other cavalry or monstrous units. But the real blood icing on this vampiric cake is their monstrous charge value of 72. When these knights charge into combat, their base attack value will get augmented to 104 with their strength boosting to 117. These bonuses will only last for a few seconds after the charge, so you are going to want to repeatedly cycle charge these vampires into combat. They have so many bonuses when in melee that very few, if any, units will be able to withstand multiple charges, especially if you hit them in their flanks or rear. With their bonus versus large, keep these guys on the flanks, hunting down enemy cavalry, before circling around your opponent's battle line and thundering into their vulnerable infantry. A couple units of these mounted blenders will leave your enemies lying in ruin upon the battlefield, and your opponent crying rivers of blood. Floating into my pick for the best war machine for the Vampire Count roster is the Mortis engine. This dark conduit of necromancy is an absolutely fantastic support unit for your undead hordes. Its stats aren't super impressive, but it has a multitude of special rules that make it an auto-include for any vampiric army. It's moderately durable with 5,427 health, 40 armor, and regeneration, though it has a low melee defense of 13. It's surprisingly fast with 48 speed, and has an average melee attack of 30, doing magical attacks with a very respectable strength of 91, 53 of which is armor piercing. Its attack potency is boosted with its bonus versus infantry of 15, giving it an attack value of 45 and strength of 106 when facing enemy infantry units. Stat-wise, it's an odd unit to be sure, but you definitely want it in the thick of the melee. The Mortis engine has a couple of special abilities that make it absolutely invaluable. First, it has the Reliquary Binding, which will constantly heal all of your undead units within a 35-meter radius of the engine itself. On the flip side of the coin, it has the Reliquary Corruption, which will constantly damage any enemy unit at a rate of 12 to 24 damage per second within a 35-meter radius. This is only active if the Mortis engine is in melee, so send it into combat alongside your melee troops. These two abilities will help shift the battle of attrition in your favor, keeping your minions, well, not alive exactly, but on their feet, while simultaneously draining your enemies of life. In a long, drawn-out brawl, this thing can cause a horrendous amount of damage over time, while minimizing the damage you take in return. Additionally, it has a third ability, the Blasphemous Tome, which will constantly increase your Winds of Magic power recharge rate by 40%, letting you unleash more spells throughout the battle. A couple of Mortis engines embedded in your battle line will be worth their weight in gold, as they augment the core strengths of the Vampire Counts: magical power and attritional warfare. With an entire roster full of the terrifying and the macabre, you'd think the Vampire Counts would have some truly horrifying monstrous units. Whether it be the hulking Crypt Horrors, the savage Vargheists, or the bestial Varghulf, the Vampire Counts aren't lacking for terrifying monstrosities, but none of them can beat my top pick, for upon leathery wings does screaming death come. The Terrorgheist. This giant bat-dragon abomination is quite durable, with 6,217 health, 80 armor, a respectable melee defense of 47, and regeneration. Its offensive potential is significant as well, as it can fly with a speed of 90, has a decent melee attack of 41, a charge bonus of 40, and 315 weapon strength, 221 of which is armor piercing. Additionally, it causes terror, as its name would suggest, has poison attacks, which will reduce the speed and weapon strength of its opponents by 15%, aiding its survivability, as well as a bonus versus large of 25, bringing its attack to 66 and its strength to 340. Its most potent ability, though, is its Death Shriek. This is a breath weapon attack that functions much like a dragon's fire breath. It deals 230 magical range damage, 170 of which is armor piercing, as well as 43 explosive damage. You can use this ability 3 times per battle, and it's particularly strong against single targets, although it's still effective against units as a whole. Terrorgheists are your premier unit for hunting down enemy monsters and cavalry. Use them to gain command of the skies if you don't already have it, which will allow you to then wreak havoc amongst your opponent's lines, striking where and whenever you want. Any particularly tough monsters or units can be softened up with a Death Shriek, and if your giant bat monster takes a bit too much damage, you can always pull it back and let it regenerate some health. Support your own cavalry. Eliminate enemy aerial threats. Decimate your opponent's back lines. Assassinate their monstrous units, or terror out their main battle line, letting you chase down their fleeing troops. The Terrorgheist can do it all. Ah, the children of the night. What sweet music they make. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell icon as it really helps out the channel. If you have any questions, see anything you disagree with, or have your own top picks, let me know in the comments. You can find my socials in the description below, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!